The massive colony ship drifted through the void, its hull scarred by countless micro-meteorite impacts and energy weapon burns. Inside, Commander Velara pressed her three-fingered hand against the viewport, watching the blue-green jewel of Earth grow larger with each passing hour. Her people had traveled for 7 standard cycles to reach this system, burning through their last reserves of fuel and hope. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human defense grid," Lieutenant Crix announced, his voice tight with exhaustion. The Zalani officer's usually vibrant purple skin had faded to a sickly gray during their long journey. Velara straightened her spine, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. Behind her, the bridge crew worked at their stations, but she could sense their fear. They all knew what hung in the balance. 20 million Zalani refugees packed into ships designed for half that number, fleeing the systematic extermination of their species by the Korvath Empire. "Put it through," she commanded, moving to stand before the main communications screen. The image that appeared showed a human female in a crisp military uniform, her dark eyes studying Velara with an intensity that seemed to pierce through the screen. The nameplate read, "Admiral Chen." "Unidentified vessels. You have entered Sol System defensive perimeter. State your intentions immediately, or you will be fired upon." The Admiral's tone was firm but not hostile, merely professional. Velara took a breath, preparing the words she had rehearsed 1,000 times during their journey. "Admiral Chen, I am Commander Velara of the Zalani refugee fleet. We come seeking sanctuary. Our homeworld has fallen to the Korvath Empire, and we have nowhere else to go. We throw ourselves upon humanity's mercy." The Admiral's expression didn't change, but Velara thought she saw something flicker in those dark eyes. "How many souls do you carry, Commander?" 20 million, Admiral. Men, women, and children. Many are injured or sick. We have almost no supplies left. Velara's voice cracked, and she had to pause to collect herself. "We have heard stories of humanity's compassion. We pray they are true." Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. Behind her, Velara could see other humans moving about what appeared to be a command center. Finally, the Admiral spoke. "Commander Velara, maintain your current position and transmit your fleet registry. Do not approach Earth until given clearance. Any aggressive action will be met with immediate response." The transmission ended, leaving Velara staring at a blank screen. She turned to her crew, seeing her own uncertainty reflected in their faces. "What do we do now?" Crix asked. "We wait," Velara replied. "And we hope." The hours that followed were the longest of Velara's life. The refugee fleet hung motionless in space, a collection of battered ships holding their breath. She knew their sensors were being scanned, their communications monitored. The humans were being cautious, and she couldn't blame them. In a galaxy full of predators, trust was a luxury few could afford. It was nearly 6 hours later when Admiral Chen appeared on their screens again. This time, she wasn't alone. Beside her stood a human male in civilian clothes, his hair gray at the temples, his expression kind but tired. "Commander Velara," Admiral Chen began, "this is Secretary General Marcus Webb of the United Earth Government. He has some questions for you." The Secretary General leaned forward slightly. "Commander, I need you to understand something. Humanity has survived in this galaxy by being careful about who we trust. We've been burned before, but we've also never turned away those truly in need. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I need complete honesty. Can you do that?" "Yes, Secretary General. I swear on the graves of our fallen that I will speak only truth." Webb nodded. "Tell me about the Korvath Empire. Why are they hunting your people?" Velara closed her eyes briefly. Memories of burning cities flashing through her mind. "The Korvath believe in genetic purity. They see any species that doesn't meet their standards as contamination to be cleansed. We Zelani committed the crime of existing while being different. Our colonies were the first to fall, then our outer worlds. We held them at our home world for 2 cycles, but they broke through. Webb finished gently. How long ago? 47 standard days. We are all that escaped. The Korvath fleet was busy with the ones who couldn't run. Velara's voice was hollow. Webb exchanged glances with Admiral Chen. And you came to us because? Because humans are known for doing the impossible, Velara said, meeting his eyes through the screen. Because you fought the Drakon hegemony to a standstill when everyone said you would fall in weeks. Because you took in the Yeltani refugees 30 years ago when no one else would. Because in all the darkness of this galaxy, humanity burns like a candle of hope. Another long silence. Velara could see Webb and Admiral Chen having a hushed conversation, their words muted. Other humans had joined them, some in military uniforms, others in civilian dress. The debate seemed intense. Finally, Webb turned back to the screen. Commander Velara, I'm transmitting coordinates for your fleet. You'll proceed to Jupiter Station where your people will undergo medical screening and processing. Any weapon systems on your ships are to remain powered down. You'll be assigned a military escort. Any deviation from flight path or hostile action will result in immediate destruction of the violating vessel. Are these terms acceptable? Velara felt tears streaming down her face. In Zelani culture, tears were not a sign of weakness, but of profound emotion. Secretary General, we accept all terms. Thank you. Thank you. Webb's expression softened. Don't thank us yet, Commander. This is just the beginning. Admiral Chen will coordinate your approach. And Commander, welcome to the Sol System. As the transmission ended, Velara heard cheers erupting throughout the bridge. She allowed herself a moment of relief before turning to her crew. Send word to all ships. We follow human instructions to the letter. Anyone who violates their trust brings death to us all. The journey to Jupiter Station took 18 hours. True to their word, the humans sent an escort, 12 sleek warships that took positions around the refugee fleet. Velara noticed how they maintained perfect formation, how their weapons remained powered but not targeted. Professional, cautious, but not cruel. As they approached Jupiter Station, Velara got her first real look at human engineering. The station was massive, a rotating ring that could have housed a small moon. Ships of all sizes docked at various ports, and she could see construction yards building new vessels. It was a testament to human industriousness. Commander, we're being hailed by Jupiter Station Control, Crix reported. Put them through. A young human male appeared on screen, his manner efficient, but not unkind. Zelani Fleet, this is Jupiter Station Control. We're transmitting docking assignments now. Medical teams are standing by. Please have your most critical cases ready for immediate transfer. We've cleared 2 full sections for your people, and temporary shelters are being set up. Food and water distribution will begin as soon as you're docked. Velara could hardly believe what she was hearing. They had prepared for them. In just hours, the humans had organized to receive 20 million refugees. Understood, Control. We're transmitting our medical priority lists now. What followed was organized chaos. As the Zelani ships docked one by one, human medical teams swarmed aboard. They worked with desperate efficiency, moving the sick and injured to the station's medical facilities. Velara watched in amazement as humans and their robotic assistants processed thousands of refugees per hour, scanning for diseases, providing food and water, assigning temporary quarters. She was supervising the evacuation of her own ship when a human approached her. He was older, wearing the uniform of a medical officer, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Commander Velara, I'm Dr. James Patterson, Chief of Refugee Medical Services. I wanted to check on you personally. When was the last time you ate or slept? Velara tried to remember and found she couldn't. There hasn't been time. Dr. Patterson gently took her arm. There's time now. Come with me. Your people are in good hands, but they're going to need you healthy for what comes next. As he led her to a medical station, Velara saw something that made her stop in her tracks. A human soldier, massive by any standard, was carrying Zelani children on his shoulders, making them laugh as he pretended to be some sort of beast. Nearby, human volunteers distributed not just basic rations, but what looked like treats, colorful packets that made children's eyes light up. Why? She asked Dr. Patterson. Why do your people care so much about strangers? The doctor smiled sadly. Because we remember what it's like to be alone in the dark, because we know what it's like to have nowhere to run, and because, Commander, it's the right thing to do. Over the following days, Velara watched humanity mobilize with stunning efficiency. Temporary shelters became permanent housing. Basic rations became proper meals, suited to Zelani physiology. Human teachers began learning Zelani language to help traumatized children. Engineers worked alongside Zelani technicians to repair their battered ships. But it wasn't all smooth. There were humans who protested taking in so many refugees, who worried about resources and security. Velara watched the human news feeds, saw the debates raging in their parliament. Yet each time, those arguing for compassion seemed to win. It was Secretary General Webb himself who finally addressed the issue in a broadcast that Velara watched from her new quarters on the station. My fellow humans, Webb began, standing at a podium with the United Earth flag behind him. I know many of you have concerns about the Zelani refugees. Let me be clear about something. Yes, helping them carries risks. Yes, it will strain our resources. But turning away 20 million souls fleeing genocide is not who we are. We've been tested before, and we've always chosen to stand for what's right. That's what makes us human. Velara was studying star charts the next day when Admiral Chen contacted her. The Admiral's expression was grim. Commander, we need to talk. Our long-range sensors have detected a Corvath fleet moving toward Sol system. Estimated arrival in 12 days. Velara felt her heart sink. Admiral, I'm sorry. We've brought death to your door. We should leave immediately. You'll do no such thing, Admiral Chen interrupted. Commander, when humanity accepted your people, we accepted all that came with it. We don't abandon those under our protection. I'm calling you to discuss defense strategies. Your people know the Corvath better than anyone. We need that knowledge. You mean to fight them? Admiral, the Corvath fleet is massive. They've never lost a war of extermination. A cold smile crossed Admiral Chen's face. Then they're about to learn what happens when they threaten those under humanity's protection. We've been preparing for something like this for a long time, Commander. The question is, will your people stand with us? Velara straightened. Admiral, give us weapons and a chance to fight, and you'll see what the Zelani are made of. That's what I hoped you'd say. Report to Strategic Command in 1 hour. Bring your best military officers. It's time to plan a welcome party for the Corvath. As Velara gathered her officers, she reflected on the whirlwind of the past days. They had come begging for refuge, throwing themselves on humanity's mercy, and the humans had answered with compassion beyond measure. But now she was seeing the other side of humanity, the side that had fought the Draken to a standstill, that had carved out a place in a hostile galaxy through sheer determination and firepower. The Corvath had chased them across the stars, thinking them easy prey. But the Zelani were no longer alone. They had found not just refuge, but allies who would stand with them against the dark. And Velara had a feeling the Corvath were about to discover why humanity was feared as much as they were respected. The mercy had been given. Now would come the rage. The Strategic Command Center on Jupiter Station was unlike anything Velara had ever seen. Holographic displays filled the vast room, showing real-time data from across the Sol system. Human officers moved with practiced efficiency between stations, coordinating defenses that spanned billions of kilometers. At the center of it all stood Admiral Chen, her eyes tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. "Commander Velara, welcome," Chen said without looking away from the displays. "I hope you're ready to get to work. We have 11 days to turn your refugees into a fighting force and integrate them into our defense grid." Velara and her officers approached the central command table where a three-dimensional map of the Sol system floated in the air. Red markers indicated human defensive positions. Thousands of them, from massive orbital fortresses to hidden weapon platforms in asteroid fields. "This is impossible," breathed Captain Jorak, one of Velara's senior officers. "The resources required for defenses of this scale." "Humanity has been at war for 300 years, Captain," Chen replied. "Sometimes cold, sometimes hot, but always at war. We learned long ago that the only true security comes from strength." She gestured to the display. "Every rock bigger than a transport ship has weapons hidden on it. Every moon is a fortress. Earth itself has 7 layers of orbital defense platforms. We call it the Iron Shell Doctrine." "Impressive," Velara admitted. "But the Korvath don't fight conventionally. They use terror weapons, biological agents, attacks on civilian populations. They break their enemies' will before their defenses." Chen's smile was sharp. "Let them try. Dr. Patterson, please brief our guests on Project Lighthouse." The doctor Velara had met earlier stepped forward, though now he wore a military science division uniform. "The Korvath's biological weapons are their primary tool of genocide. We've been analyzing the samples your medical data provided. In the past 6 days, we've developed countermeasures for 90% of known Korvath bioweapons. Mass production of vaccines and antidotes is already underway." 6 days? Velara couldn't hide her shock. "Our scientists worked for cycles without success." "With respect, Commander, your scientists were working while running for their lives," Patterson replied. "We have the benefit of stable laboratories and a rather extensive history with biological warfare. The Spanish flu, the gene wars of 2287, the plague of New Shanghai, we've survived them all and learned from each." Admiral Chen brought up new displays. "Now, let's talk about your people's role. How many combat-capable personnel do you have?" "Perhaps 3 million with military training," Velara answered. "But our ships are damaged, our weapons depleted. We can work with that." Chen touched her earpiece. "Colonel Martinez, please report to Strategic Command." She turned back to Velara. "You're about to meet the man responsible for our emergency armament program. Fair warning, he's enthusiastic." Minutes later, a human male burst into the command center. He was short by human standards with wild hair and oil-stained uniform. His eyes lit up when he saw the Zalani officers. "Outstanding! Zalani physiology suggests superior reflexes and multi-spectrum vision. Perfect for fighter pilots and gunners." He grabbed Jorak's hand, examining it. 3 fingers, but 6 points of articulation. Brilliant for precision weapons control. "Commander Velara, meet Colonel Eduardo Martinez, head of our Rapid Integration Program," Chen said with barely concealed amusement. Martinez released Jorak's hand and pulled up a holographic display from a portable projector. "I've had my teams working non-stop since you arrived. Look at this beauty. The Hybrid 7 fighter craft. Human frame with controls modified for Zalani pilots. We can have 1,000 ready in 4 days. 1,000 fighters in 4 days? Velara asked, incredulous. Please, Martinez scoffed. During the Dracon War, we were building 100 ships a day. We've gotten better since then. Your cargo ships are being refitted with weapon systems as we speak. Nothing fancy. Railguns, missile pods, point defense systems. But they'll be able to fight. Over the following days, Velara watched humanity transform her broken people into a military force. It was brutal and exhausting, but there was something else too: respect. Human instructors didn't treat the Zalani as inferior refugees, but as allies in a common cause. She stood in an observation deck watching Zalani pilots training in simulators alongside human counterparts. The humans shared their tactics freely, holding nothing back. Below, mixed squads of humans and Zalani practiced boarding actions, the smaller Zalani learning to complement human strength with their natural agility. "Your people learn quickly," Admiral Chen said, joining her at the window. "The pilot scores are impressive." "We had to learn quickly, running from the Korvath for so long," Velara replied. "Admiral, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why do this? Your defenses are strong. You could have sent us away, avoided this fight entirely. Why risk everything for strangers?" Chen was quiet for a moment, watching the training below. "My great-great-grandmother was on the last ship out of Hong Kong when the seas rose. They were turned away from port after port, told there was no room, no resources. Finally, the African Federation took them in. 2 million climate refugees, given a second chance at life." She turned to Velara. "That was 300 years ago, but we remember. Humanity has been both the refugee and the savior. We've learned that turning our backs on those in need diminishes us all. Besides," her expression hardened, "any empire that commits genocide deserves to burn." On the 7th day, long-range sensors detected the Korvath fleet dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The images sent a chill through Velara. Over 800 warships, including 3 of their massive cleansing vessels, ships designed to render entire worlds lifeless. The human response was immediate. Every defensive platform went to full alert. Civilian traffic was grounded. The orbital manufactories switched to producing nothing but ammunition and replacement parts. Most remarkably, Velara watched human civilians mobilize with military precision. There was no panic, no chaos, just determined preparation. Secretary General Webb addressed the combined Earth and Zalani populations from the United Earth Parliament. "Citizens of Earth, brothers and sisters of the Zalani people, the enemy approaches. They come expecting fear, expecting us to hand over those we've sworn to protect. They will find instead a united front, human and Zalani standing as one. We do not yield, we do not bow, we do not break." The Korvath fleet moved in-system slowly, broadcasting their demands on all frequencies. Velara stood in the command center as the message played, the harsh voice of Korvath Supreme Commander Thakval filling the room. "Humans of Sol system, you harbor genetic impurities that must be cleansed. Surrender the Zalani refugees and we will spare your worlds. Resist, and you will share their fate. You have 1 rotation of your planet to comply." Admiral Chen looked around the command center. "Well, I think that deserves a response. Open a channel, all frequencies." When the connection established, Chen stood straight, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's determination. "Korvath Fleet, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy. The Zalani are under our protection. Any attack on them is an attack on humanity. You have 1 hour to withdraw from Sol system. This is your only warning." She cut the transmission and turned to her staff. "All stations, execute Defense Plan Omega. Commander Velara, it's time to see if your pilots are ready." The first Korvath assault came exactly 1 hour later. They sent their fastest ships in a probing attack toward Jupiter Station, clearly expecting to test human defenses. What they found instead was a meat grinder. Hidden weapon platforms opened fire from a dozen angles. Missiles launched from innocent-looking cargo containers. The Hybrid 7 fighters, piloted by Zalani refugees hungry for payback, tore into the Korvath formation with savage precision. Velara coordinated her squadrons from the command center, pride swelling as she watched her people fight. Blue Squadron, Korvath heavy cruiser bearing 267. Green Squadron, cover their attack run. The Zalani pilots flew like beings possessed, their natural reflexes enhanced by human technology. They knew every Korvath weak point, every blind spot in their sensor grids. What should have been green pilots flew like veterans, their desire for vengeance tempered by human tactical discipline. The probing attack lasted less than 20 minutes. Of the 60 Korvath ships that engaged, none returned to their fleet. "Thakval won't be happy about that," Chen observed with satisfaction. "He expected easy prey and got a bloody nose instead. Commander, what will he do next?" Velara studied the tactical display. "He'll rage. The Korvath don't handle setbacks well. He'll send a larger force, trying to overwhelm a section of your defenses." "Good. Let him try. All stations, prepare for Stage 2. Release the hounds." Velara didn't understand the reference until she saw it on the display. From hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt, human attack craft emerged. Not the sleek fighters she expected, but ugly, brutal gunships bristling with weapons. They moved to flanking positions, waiting for the Korvath to commit. The second assault came 3 hours later. 200 Korvath ships pushed toward Earth itself, trying to bypass Jupiter's defenses. They made it halfway before the trap sprung. The human gunships attacked from multiple vectors, supported by Zalani fighter squadrons. But the real surprise came from Earth's moon. Massive doors opened in craters, revealing weapons that shouldn't have existed. Energy projectors that carved through Korvath shields like paper. "Luna Base! Fire mission approved!" Chen commanded. "Show them what humans do to genocidal filth." Beams of coherent energy lanced out from the moon, each one powerful enough to crack a small asteroid. Korvath ships simply ceased to exist where the beams touched. The enemy formation shattered, ships fleeing in all directions only to run into more human defenses. Velara watched one display showing a mixed human Zalani boarding team taking a Korvath destroyer. The humans smashed through bulkheads while Zalani specialists hacked their systems, turning the ship's own weapons against its fleet. It was brutal, efficient, and absolutely merciless. "Commander," one of her officers called out, "Korvath bioweapon deployment detected. They're launching plague missiles at civilian stations." "Countermeasures deployed," Dr. Patterson announced calmly. "Interceptors away. Medical stations report full readiness for any that get through." The missiles never reached their targets. Human point defense systems, upgraded with Zalani targeting algorithms, created an impenetrable wall of fire. The few bioweapons that detonated in space were quickly neutralized by specialized drones that had been pre-positioned for exactly this scenario. By the end of the second day of battle, the Korvath had lost nearly 300 ships without achieving a single significant objective. Human losses were minimal. A few dozen fighters, one damaged destroyer. The Zalani had lost more. Their eagerness for revenge, sometimes overcoming tactical sense, but even their losses were far below what anyone had expected. That night, Velara found herself in the station's observation lounge, looking out at the stars. The debris of destroyed Korvath ships glittered in Jupiter's reflected light. Admiral Chen joined her, carrying 2 cups of what Velara had learned was called coffee. "Your people fought well today," Chen said, offering 1 cup. Velara accepted it gratefully. "They fight for their families, their future. But this is just the beginning. Thakval still has his cleansing vessels. When he deploys those, we'll be ready," Chen assured her. "Commander, can I share something with you? When we first detected your fleet, our analysts gave me threat assessments. The possibility that you were an invasion force, that this was all an elaborate trap. Some advisors argued we should destroy you before you could become a threat." Velara tensed. "What changed your mind?" "Your children," Chen said simply. "No invasion force brings children. No trap requires such desperation in their eyes." Secretary General Webb overruled the paranoid voices because he remembered that humanity's greatest strength has never been our weapons or our ships. It's our ability to see ourselves in others, to extend our hand even when it risks getting bitten. She sipped her coffee. Tomorrow, Thakval will likely commit his reserves. He'll use every dirty trick, every terror weapon. He'll try to break our will. Will he succeed? Velara asked quietly. Chen's smile was cold as the void outside. He'll find that human will doesn't break. It gets angry. And Commander, you haven't seen humans truly angry yet. The next morning proved Chen's prediction correct. Long-range sensors showed the entire remaining Korvath fleet moving toward Earth in a single massive formation. At its heart were the 3 cleansing vessels, each one capable of killing a world. All stations, all ships, Admiral Chen's voice echoed through every human and Zelani vessel. This is it. They're coming with everything they have. Remember what we fight for. Remember who stands beside you. Today we show the galaxy that genocide has consequences. Today we teach the Korvath the price of threatening those under our protection. All ships, prepare to engage. Let's finish this. Velara moved to her station, coordinating Zelani forces that had swelled with volunteers. Refugees who days ago had been civilians now manned weapons stations, crewed damage control teams, prepared to defend their new home with the same determination as their human allies. The final battle for Sol System was about to begin, and as Velara watched the human fleet deploy, massive dreadnoughts emerging from hidden bases, swarms of fighters launching from every station, weapons platforms activating by the thousands, she realized the Korvath had made a fatal error. They had chased the Zelani to the one species in the galaxy that would not only offer mercy to the desperate, but would unleash unholy rage upon those who threatened them. The humans had a saying Velara had learned: speak softly and carry a big stick. The Korvath were about to learn just how big humanity's stick really was. The Korvath fleet advanced in perfect formation, a wall of death stretching across the void. 800 ships moved as one, their weapons charging, their crews confident in their superiority. At the center, the 3 cleansing vessels loomed like mechanical gods of destruction, each one 5 kilometers long and armed with planet-killing weapons. In the human command center, Admiral Chen stood perfectly still, watching the tactical displays with the calm of a predator waiting to strike. Around her, officers called out readings and status reports, but her eyes never left the approaching fleet. Distance to optimal engagement range? She asked quietly. 17 minutes. Admiral, came the response. Commander Velara, are your people ready? Velara checked her displays one final time. 3 million Zelani now manned stations throughout the human fleet, integrated into crews that had accepted them without hesitation. We stand ready, Admiral, for our fallen, for our future. Chen nodded. All stations, this is Fleet Command. Execute Ragnarok Protocol. I say again, execute Ragnarok Protocol. May fortune favor the righteous. What happened next would be remembered in galactic history as the moment humanity announced its true capabilities to the universe. From the outer system, hundreds of autonomous weapons platforms that had been dormant for decades suddenly activated. They had been disguised as defunct mining stations, derelict ships, and space debris. Now they revealed their true purpose. Streams of hypervelocity projectiles lanced through space at significant fractions of light speed. The Korvath's outer screen simply evaporated, ships torn apart before they could raise shields. Fusion mines hidden in the asteroid belt detonated in sequence, creating a wall of nuclear fire that herded the enemy fleet into predetermined kill zones. First layer successful, an officer reported. Enemy fleet down to 720 ships and closing. But the Korvath pushed through, their heavier ships absorbing tremendous damage while protecting the cleansing vessels. Supreme Commander Thakval's voice crackled across all frequencies. Pathetic humans! You delay the inevitable. All ships, maximum acceleration, Deploy terror drones. Thousands of small, fast drones erupted from the Korvath fleet, each one carrying bioweapons designed to bypass shields and hull armor. They streaked toward Earth's orbital platforms where billions of civilians sheltered. Zalani squadron leaders, you're up, Chen commanded. Show them what your pilots can do. Velara's hearts swelled with pride as she watched her people respond. Zalani-piloted fighters launched from every human carrier and station, moving to intercept the terror drones. Their natural ability to track multiple fast-moving objects made them perfect for this task. The space around Earth became a deadly dance of fighters and drones, explosions lighting the darkness like fatal fireworks. Captain Jorak's voice came through the comm. "This is for Zelen Prime." His fighter squadron carved through a cluster of drones, their human-designed weapons proving devastatingly effective. Meanwhile, the main fleets closed to engagement range. The human dreadnoughts, massive ships that had been held in reserve, finally showed themselves. The UES Normandy, a 2-kilometer behemoth, opened fire with spinal-mounted railguns that could crack moons. Korvath battleships that had terrorized a dozen species crumpled like paper under the onslaught. "Sir, the cleansing vessels are charging their primary weapons," a sensor officer announced. "Target appears to be Earth itself." "Not happening," Chen said coldly. "Signal the Mars platform. Authorization code, Prometheus Unbound." On Mars, hidden beneath the red sand for over a century, humanity's most terrible weapon awakened. The entire Valles Marineris canyon system split open, revealing a weapon array that defied conventional understanding. It had been built during the darkest days of the Gene Wars, when humanity faced extinction from within. Now it would serve to protect them from extinction from without. "Mars platform online," came the mechanical report. "Targeting cleansing vessels. Singularity projectors charging." Velara watched the power readings in disbelief. "Admiral, those energy levels, that's not possible." "Welcome to humanity's last resort, Commander. We call it the God Killer." Chen's expression was grim. "We hoped never to use it, but for those who would commit genocide..." She trailed off, then spoke firmly. "Mars platform. Fire when ready." 3 beams of impossible darkness lanced across space. They weren't energy beams in any conventional sense. They were tears in reality itself, miniature black holes projected at the enemy. Where they touched the cleansing vessels, matter simply ceased to exist. The massive ships, pride of the Korvath fleet, collapsed in on themselves, their death screams echoing across every frequency as they were compressed to points of infinite density. The psychological impact on the Korvath fleet was immediate. These were ships that had never known defeat, crews that had exterminated entire civilizations. Now they watched their ultimate weapons vanish in seconds. Panic spread through their ranks. "Push the advantage," Chen commanded. "All ships, general engagement. Commander Velara, would you like to send a message to your people's murderers?" Velara stepped forward, activating the fleet-wide communication. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 20 million survivors and billions of dead. "Korvath Fleet, this is Commander Velara of the Zalani people. You hunted us across the stars, you burned our worlds, you killed our children, but you made one mistake. You let some of us survive. And we found protectors who value life over fear, who answer genocide with justice. Today, you face the combined fury of humanity and the Zalani. Today you pay for your crimes." The battle became a melee as human ships smashed into the Korvath formation. The aliens found themselves facing not the limited defensive action they expected, but a full offensive that seemed to come from every direction. Human tactics were unconventional, even suicidal by galactic standards. Destroyer captains rammed larger vessels to create openings for bomber runs. Fighter pilots flew into enemy hangar bays to detonate their craft from within. And alongside them, the Zalani fought with the fury of the desperate given hope. a cargo ship converted to a gunboat, crewed entirely by Zalani civilians who had lost everything, managed to destroy a Korvath heavy cruiser by overloading their own reactor at point-blank range. Their last transmission was a list of names, the families they had lost, now avenged. In the command center, reports flooded in from across the battlefield. Chen processed them all, adjusting tactics in real time, coordinating the deadly dance of thousands of ships. Velara worked beside her, ensuring Zalani forces struck where they could do the most damage, their knowledge of Korvath weaknesses proving invaluable. "Admiral, Thakval's command ship is trying to break away," an officer reported. "They're heading for the jump point." "Not today," Chen replied. "Commander Velara, I believe your people deserve the honor." Velara's eyes hardened. All Zalani squadrons in Sector 7 converge on these coordinates. The Butcher of our worlds tries to flee. Show him the mercy he showed our children. What followed was not a battle, but an execution. Zalani fighters swarmed Thakval's dreadnought, their attacks precise and merciless. They disabled its engines, destroyed its weapons, and left it drifting helpless in space. Then, a single Zalani bomber, piloted by a survivor from their homeworld's final stand, delivered the killing blow. The remaining Korvath ships, seeing their supreme commander destroyed and facing weapons they couldn't comprehend, began to surrender en masse. Some tried to flee, only to find that humanity had seeded the jump points with interdiction fields. There would be no escape. 6 hours after it began, the Battle of Sol was over. Of the 800 Korvath ships that had entered the system, fewer than 50 survived to surrender. The debris field stretched for millions of kilometers, a testament to the fury of those who protect the innocent. Admiral Chen stood in the command center, receiving reports of the aftermath. Human losses had been significant, but not catastrophic. 47 ships destroyed, several thousand casualties. The Zalani had lost more in proportion, their fury leading them to take greater risks, but they had fought knowing it was for their very survival. "Admiral," Secretary General Webb's image appeared on the main screen. "The Parliament has been monitoring the battle. Outstanding work." "Thank you, sir." "What are your orders regarding the prisoners?" Webb's expression was thoughtful. "That's partly why I'm calling. Commander Velara, you're included in this discussion. The Korvath Empire still exists beyond this fleet. We need to decide how to respond." Velara stepped forward. "Secretary General, my people cry out for justice. The Korvath have committed crimes beyond forgiveness." "I understand," Webb replied. "But consider this. We now have the location of every Korvath world from their navigation databases. We have weapons that can reach them. We could end their empire in a matter of months. The question is, should we?" The command center fell silent. Everyone understood the weight of this moment. Humanity had the power to commit xenocide in return for attempted xenocide. The cycle of vengeance could continue or... "What do you propose?" Velara asked quietly. "We broadcast this battle to every corner of the galaxy," Webb said. "We show them what happens to those who commit genocide. Then we offer terms. The Korvath Empire disbands, their military is dismantled under our supervision, and they pay reparations to rebuild Zalani worlds. War crime tribunals for those responsible. But their species survives under probation." "And if they refuse?" Admiral Chen answered that. "Then we demonstrate that today's battle was us being merciful. Commander, I know this is hard, but we've learned that genocide, even in return for genocide, diminishes everyone. We can be better." Velara closed her eyes, thinking of her dead world, her lost family. The anger burned hot within her. But then she thought of the human soldier carrying Zalani children on his shoulders, of Dr. Patterson working tirelessly to save Zalani lives, of human pilots dying to protect refugee ships. "The Zalani will follow humanity's lead," she said finally. "You showed us mercy when we needed it most. We will trust your wisdom in this as well. Webb nodded approvingly. Then let's build something better from this tragedy. Admiral, begin broadcast preparations. The galaxy needs to see what happened here today. Over the following days, as human and Zilani crews worked together to clear the battlefield and tend to the wounded, the recordings of the Battle of Sol spread across known space. The sight of humanity's hidden might shocked many, but what shocked them more was what came after. Instead of pressing their advantage to conquer, humans began rebuilding. They shared their defensive technologies with species under threat. They organized relief fleets for worlds damaged by Korvath raids. Most remarkably, they began training Zilani engineers and scientists, preparing them to reclaim and rebuild their lost worlds. The Korvath Empire, faced with the certainty of annihilation if they refused, accepted the terms. Their military might was broken forever. Their leaders faced justice, but their species would survive to perhaps one day earn redemption. 1 month after the battle, Velara stood in a ceremony on Earth itself, the first Zilani to set foot on humanity's birth world. She was there to sign the Treaty of Sol, formally establishing the Human-Zilani Alliance. As she looked out at the crowd, humans and Zilani standing together, she thought about the journey that had brought them here. Secretary General Webb approached her after the signing. "Commander, I have something for you." He handed her a small device. The coordinates of 3 systems perfect for Zilani colonization. Close enough to human space for protection, far enough for independence. Your people can rebuild, stronger than before. Velara felt tears on her face again. "Secretary General, we can never repay what humanity has done." Webb smiled. "You already have, Commander. You reminded us who we are at our best. You gave us the chance to stand against evil and choose mercy over vengeance. That's payment enough." Later, as Velara prepared to board a ship that would take her people to their new homes, she was approached by a young Zilani who had been born during their flight from Korvath space. "Commander," the youth asked, "why did the humans help us? They gained nothing but enemies and death." Velara looked back at Earth, shining blue and green in the void. "Because that's what makes them human," she said. "They see suffering and choose to act. They face evil and choose to stand. They have the power to destroy and choose to protect. We came begging for refuge, and they answered with both mercy and rage. Mercy for us, rage for those who would harm us." As their ship departed, Velara watched human and Zilani vessels flying in formation, a sight that would have been impossible just months ago. The galaxy had learned something important in the Battle of Sol, that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their hidden fleets or terrible weapons. It was their willingness to extend a hand to those in need, and to stand as an immovable shield against those who would prey on the weak. The Korvath had thought they were chasing helpless refugees to an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous than any weapon. They had awakened humanity's conscience, and in the end, that had doomed them more surely than all the fleets in the galaxy. As for the Zilani, they had found more than refuge. They had found friends who would bleed for them, die for them, and help them rise from the ashes stronger than before. The debt they owed could never be measured in resources or treaties. It was measured in the lives saved, the future secured, and the bond forged in the crucible of war. 20 million had come begging. 20 million had been given a second chance, and the galaxy would never be the same.